your co-host, Maharaj, so you can share your screen if you want to.
I don't know how to do anything, but they knew. They know.
So, Prabhu, Guru Maharaj is not presenting anything, so we
Okay.
don't need to do screen sharing. Okay.
No screen sharing, you're saying?
Yes, Prabhuji.
No problem. No problem.
No PowerPoint, just my face
That's best.
and Tilak and smile. And we're in somebody's home that I've never been before. And they're in Austin, but they're not in Austin because they're in the suburbs. What's the name of the suburb here?
I think they are proper.
Really?
They are in suburb.
Okay. I did. I did. Just shows my memory is like a sieve. And how many children in the family? One. This other family? 3. Okay. I have more children than all of you. Too many. Are we ready to begin?
Yes,
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj.
Okay, he's saying not yet and you're saying yes, so I'll begin. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. For our listening audience and I guess devotees here in Austin as well as in distant places, this is a Bhagavad Gita study group based in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. And I've been invited to make a little introduction talk on chapter 18. They've reached chapter 18, text 50. And I'm just going to do a little summary and introduction to the section of chapter 18 that they're discussing.
Maharaj, if you may I just quickly introduce you or have the honor of doing that?
How quick can you do it? If
Very
it's quick, then okay. If it's not, then I'll just roll.
Very quick, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you.
So it is my great pleasure to have the association of His Holiness Romapad Maharaj. And personally for me, he is a very, very, very special person. He is my Gurudev, my Diksha Guru. And just a little bit about him, so you all are familiar. He is a disciple of His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He came in touch with Srila Prabhupada way back in 1969. I was definitely not born by then. And he has been ever since, which is now 52 years, he has dedicated his life since then, since he joined ISKCON under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. He has dedicated his life in spreading Srila Prabhupada's message, Lord Krishna's message. He took to the renounced order of life, which is sannyasa, in 1982. Maharaj, please correct me if I got that wrong, but basically really long time back. And ever since has been continuing the wonderful work which Srila Prabhupada entrusted him with, likewise to all his disciples. But Romapad Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, has very, very sincerely taken that to heart and has been very, very actively spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. And he does not have a home base. There's no home that he can call except for his 2 suitcases. I was amazed when I kind of came to know that, and when I saw that over the years, he really keeps traveling from one place to the other, and keeps spreading the message of Lord Krishna all over the place, all over the world. One of the things that I like is his um, very, very crisp and very to the point, and very sweet as well as hard-hitting messages that he sends every week. Things that he comes across, he shares with us. His little blogs, his little articles are just a constant source of inspiration. And Maharaj has taken us for yatras to wonderful, wonderful places. And those are another thing that I have unfortunately not attended last few years, but I attended earlier, and they are just such a amazing experience to visit these holy places under the able guidance of such a saintly person. So that is who Maharaj is for me. And I am just so indebted that I got in touch with Krishna consciousness, with Srila Prabhupada, and with such a uh, sincere messenger or representative or of Srila Prabhupada, that I'm able to understand, or I'm trying to understand, I'm at least getting the opportunity to understand the message of Lord Krishna through Srila Prabhupada and through Maharaj's teachings. So thank you, Maharaj, for giving this association of yours to all of us here. And I'll just turn it over to you. And I have my wife here with me, Damodar Leela Dasi. So yeah, we both send our Dandavat Pranam to you.
A little Prabhupada story, hearing what you just described. Going back to probably 1974, 73 or 74, in New York City, in a different area of Brooklyn than the present temple. Hot July summer day. I mean, hot for New York. Your temperature today is 90 degrees. It was probably 95 in New York during that visit. And I remember very clearly Prabhupada was speaking in a general sense on the Srimad Bhagavatam during the morning class. And then he waxed into a very soft-hearted mood. And he was nearly choking on his words, emotionally choking, saying, "My spiritual master found me in some dark place, and somehow he made me fortunate." He was emotional as he paused, and everyone went, "Jai Prabhupada." And then he said, he gave me an instruction. His instruction was, "You go to the English-speaking parts of the world, and as I have made you fortunate, you should make them fortunate, and so I have come." And the mridangas were banging, and kartals were gonging, and Jai Prabhupada. And then he looked at us, looked around the room, laser glance, saying, "And now I am similarly instructing all of you, just as you have received Krishna's mercy through my spiritual master, I am delivering that to you the same order. You go forward and make others similarly fortunate." And the room went nuts. Everyone was bouncing off the walls and ceiling, and Jai Prabhupada. And so I request all of you, as you have received something to make your lives fortunate, you make your best effort, of course, depending fully upon Krishna for the ability to do so, to similarly make others fortunate. Jai Prabhupada. So you have been discussing Bhagavad Gita for quite some time now. It's you're up at 18, text 50. So you know the theme of chapter 18. I'll cover it very quickly, and you have a document that does it in more detail. Chapter 18 is a summary of everything that's in the prior 17 chapters. It's a summary. Contents of a Gita summarized. So it starts with fruitive activity, and it moves from karma to moving into Gyan, and then we're introduced to what you most likely know by now is the yoga ladder. Very quickly, in this yoga ladder section, it covers a major part of chapter 18, but it starts with karma moving into karma yoga. So to move from karma to karma yoga, there's an extended section that deals with the modes of nature. The modes of nature get more attention. There are more verses in Bhagavad Gita on the modes of nature than any other topic in Bhagavad Gita. And there's a lot of them in chapter 18. So in chapter 18, the three modes of nature related to activity and the performer of activity and happiness and knowledge and renunciation and you name it, modes of nature, activities conducted by the modes of nature. And then to move activity that's in the modes of nature to activities that are towards the mode of goodness comes karma yoga, activity dedicating the results of activities to Krishna. And that has two divisions, according to our acharyas, particularly Baladev and Vishwanath. Prabhupada didn't make this distinction so vivid, but Sakam Karma Yoga and Nishkam Karma Yoga. What's the distinction? Sakam Karma Yoga is with desire, sakama. I do my prescribed duties according to the codes of Dharma, dedicating the results to Krishna, but I have some expectation. Sakam Karma Yoga. By that Sakam Karma Yoga, then gradually, very gradually, the modes of nature subside, their influence. We still have a body that has its tendencies, psychophysical tendencies, that doesn't stop. But the modes of nature, the tight grip that they have, slackens to a degree, and one becomes more elevated in the quality of goodness, which is very important in the yoga system or the yoga ladder. Move towards the quality of the mode of goodness. Now to go from Sakam to Nishkam Karma Yoga, that's the section just before what you're now studying. So I'm going to focus a little bit on what comes before, what the section that you're studying now, and what comes next. Although all work is controlled by the modes of nature, dedication of your psychophysical qualities to Krishna's service, so this is, the language is important. It's moving from karma yoga towards devotional service, but it's still karma yoga. When you do things that are according to your nature, you have some expectation for some outcome, but you're dedicating the results to Krishna, and this then becomes Sakam Karma Yoga, and through that purification, gradually, the hankering for fruitive results subsides gradually. And realistically speaking, most of us who are engaged in devotional service, we still have this very stubborn, fruitive desire tendency. We do something to get something. And what that something is that we do to get, or an expectation of getting something, can be soft or hard, or combination. It can be gross material, it can be subtle material, it can be whatever it is, it's still, I'm at the center, although Krishna is in the picture. False ego, our dear friend, false ego, where our identification with the body and mind is very prevalent. And because of that misidentification, the I conception, then comes mine. I and mine. That's the material program. So even we're engaged in karma yoga, or performing duties for the purpose of offering the results unto Krishna, to go towards nishkam karma yoga, that's the challenge. If you look in the very first beginning, by the way, this document that you have, it comes from Burijan Prabhu's outline of the entire 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. This is his outline for chapter 18. But the main message in chapter 18, if everything else slips through your fingers, don't miss this one. Don't be attached to the results of your work. That's not a new message. It's there in the beginning chapters, the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, again and again. And here it is again. Krishna's instruction reminding Arjuna, don't be attached to the fruits of your work. Work as you are obligated. You know that verse. Karmani vadikara se ma paleshu kadachin, a very celebrated verse earlier in Bhagavad Gita. So now it's again, but going more deeply. You're entitled to your prescribed duties. You're not entitled to the results. So what do you do with the results? You offer them to Krishna. And when you become matured, this is, I'll say it slowly because this is where devotees stumble or get stuck or don't advance appropriately, is because we're still attached to being the enjoyer of the fruits of our work. I'll say it again. We're still attached to the idea of being the enjoyer of our work, subtle or gross. So Nishkam Karma Yoga is the section that you're covering right now. Moving from Sakam to Nishkam Karma Yoga. Chapter 18, text 50. Nishkam Karma Yoga. Being developed. And when you become matured in being detached from the results, but being very attached to perform prescribed duties for the pleasure of Krishna, some good things start to happen. What are they? Mode of goodness becomes very prominent. Knowledge of the soul, not just theoretical knowledge, but realization of the soul becomes more prominent. Working with the spiritual conception of who you are, who your family members are, still doing your duties with your occupation or your academic work, or mom and dad and the kids and people and the community, and you still do those things. But you have progressively a more spiritual, realized conception of yourself and of them as spirit souls. Here's another little Prabhupada story. One friend of mine named Yogeshwara Prabhu, he lives in New York. He joined when he was very young also. He joined in Europe, and he was with Prabhupada in a morning walk in London. And it was just the two of them, and he pointed to a tree, and he said, Prabhupada, what does a sadhu see when he sees the tree? Tree, not just your wife or your husband or your children or your friends or your classmates at school or colleagues at work, but just a tree. Because the same principle applies. And Prabhupada paused, didn't immediately reply, and said, one who is a pure devotee of the Lord, not saying this is how I see, but in third person, will not just see the covering, the tree itself, the body of the tree, but a self-realized soul will see the soul within. Not with the material eyes, but with the eyes of knowledge. And this is the Brahmabhuta stage. So coming up very quickly in the series of verses you'll be discussing is the celebrated verse, 1854. It has 4 parts. But it's the fruit of Nishkam Karma Yoga. The section that you're now studying is dedication of your work to the satisfaction of Krishna without attachment to the results of your work. Nishkam Karma Yoga. The understanding of the soul awakens. The mode of goodness becomes more prominent. And there's a natural inborn, inward contentment, satisfaction, tranquility, peacefulness that is with you all the time, even when things outside are not like that at all. So, Brahmabhuta, Prasanatma. Now you'll be coming to this verse shortly, but Prasanatma, the happiness on the soul platform. Prasana, Atma. And when that happiness within is abundant, and as it grows and grows, passion and ignorance subside. Na sochati, na kangsati. Hankering, that's passion. Lamenting, that's ignorance. They're hankering and lamenting, poof. They diminish and then no more. So if you don't have hankering and lamenting, what's life? Service to Krishna is life, without hankering and lamenting. And then the third characteristic is sama sarveshu bhuteshu sama. E means equal vision. Sama sarveshu bhute, seeing all living entities equal, whether it's a tree or a family member or whatever. And it doesn't mean you don't see the covering, but you see beyond the covering. And it's a realization that comes from Nishkam Karma Yoga. And when that realization awakens, Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. Labate is a nice word. Labate means attain. Devotional service is attained. So what does that mean? It means what we're doing now isn't devotional service. We're doing devotional service. There's a really nice explanation I like. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that just like if you have a large collection of beans, picture a large bag or some container or something of beans, and inside, along with the beans, is mixed up jewels and gold. And when you remove all the beans, what's left? The jewels and the gold, the valuable things. They're already there. But the
ಅಣ್ಣಂಗೂ ಹೇಳು ಬಂದು ಶೂಸ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ರೆಡಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಈಗ ಹೊರಡೋಣ.
Nishkam Karma Yoga is bean removal. Or like in gardening, weed removal or anartha removal, anartha nivritti. The things that are just clutter due to our previous material contact and desires connected with that previous material contact, it's gone. It diminishes and it's gone. And then attains, labhate, means it's just voila, or bhavati, it comes out. The standard of pure devotional service comes out. So that means before pure devotional service, there's mixed devotional service. There's beans along with the jewels and gold. There's other things going on inside at the heart level besides Krishna is to be pleased. But by Nishkam Karma Yoga, then the awakening of bhakti, Shuddha bhakti, pure devotional service, becomes your life's experience, your internal life's experience. Now, we all know, if we haven't learned it already, you'll learn it. The anartha nivritti stage, or the eradication of unwanted things within the heart, takes some time, largely because they're very stubborn. And they're stubborn, and we're attached. We're attached to some types of impurity that we carry and we value. Bad habits, conditioning, you give it different names. They're attached to us and we're attached to them. The Maya doesn't let us go very easily, and we don't let go of Maya very easily. Because of that attachment tendency, it's a gradual process, although it doesn't have to be. Because the cleansing process, the bhakti principle, is very powerful. So we're introduced right away, all of us, to processes of mantra meditation, and just as you have been doing, hearing Krishna's words. Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's words, very powerful because it's coming from the Supreme Authority, Krishna's words. But it takes a while because we're covered. And so what's coming up, you see on your sheet, this outline of the chapter. Pure devotional service becomes even more elevated, where the object of Paramatma, the Lord of the heart, becomes more prominent. You feel guided at all times, in all circumstances, by not only the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, but that same wisdom that comes from within. And then the ultimate position of the Bhagavan, full surrender to Krishna, where he takes charge of you. And you feel that. That's coming up in the rest of Bhagavad Gita. And then Arjun's giving up of his misgivings that you read about in the earlier parts of Bhagavad Gita. His commitment to Krishna, I'm ready to do whatever you have instructed. And then the concluding parts of chapter 18, where Sanjaya says, victory. There it's certain, even before the battle begins. Dhritarashtra is the one he's narrating this to. Victory is certain. Now, that's a little summary of the section that you're in and the context of the section that you're in. And frankly speaking, the stage of devotional service that many of us will become quite familiar with for quite some time because of attachment to fruitive activities. It's like a stain that just doesn't go away no matter how you rub it and scrub it and try to bleach it out and deal with it. It's a very strong force in life, fruitive tendency. In the structure of the universe, I'll just say this one last thing. According to the cosmology of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this Earth planet is in the middle range. There's upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Upper, mode of goodness. Lower, mode of ignorance. This plane, mode of passion. Fruitive activity is the symptom of the plane of existence. We've taken birth here. It's something we're prone to, and therefore we've taken birth here, and it's not easy. It's not easy to transform consciousness beyond the fruitive tendency, even in the presence of powerful devotional service. So be aware of what the internal enemy is, and take your medicine. Dedication without attachment to the fruits of your work to Krishna. Okay, so that's my little message, and I guess we're going to turn things over to Paramakruna, and he's going to help us with questions you sent to him.
Thank you, Maharaj. That was a very wonderful breakdown of the 1854 verse. It was amazing how you broke it down into 4 parts, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Thank you so much. So I guess how we will do it is, again, it's not something I've fully prepared or for. So please excuse me, but I have received several questions from our participants who have been on this journey of Bhagavad Gita for almost the better part of the year, 3/4 of a year, 44, 45 weeks now. And uh, uh, I can go through those questions one by one. If there are live questions, please raise your hand in the Zoom, like not like on the screen, but using that little button that you might see. And we can probably alternate between the questions I have received and the live questions. And also, I would like to request to, if you can all turn on your videos, that will be very nice. I'm sure Maharaj would like to see you, and especially when you speak, but in general as well. And yeah, with that, I think we will. Anything else? Yeah. So yeah, you should be able to find out fairly easily how to raise your hand in the Zoom, or you can just type your question in the chat, or you can just indicate in the chat window that I have a question and I will come to you. Anyway, basically, or you can just WhatsApp us that I have a question. Please give me a chance, or something like that. So, and also, it's not just questions. You've all been on the journey of Bhagavad Gita, hearing Lord Krishna's wonderful words, very expertly and very accurately presented to us by Srila Prabhupada in his Bhagavad Gita as it is. So if you would like to also share a little bit of your experience, what have you benefited, or even what your issues are, where you are blocked, anything that might have come up for you, please feel free to share. I'm sure Maharaj would love to hear your experiences as you have been on this wonderful journey of the most important textbook, in
There's
for
6
humanity.
in mind.
So with that, I'll start. So you can let us know if you have questions. So I'll start with some of the questions that I have received, Maharaj.
Just important in this little group.
And Maharaj, if there are questions over there, please,
This class is for y'all, as they say in Texas.
okay. Okay, sure. And if, yeah, towards the end, yes, whichever way we can.
Yes.
Sure. So Maharaj, this question is from, some of the questions were anonymous and some of the questions had names. So from Priyam Mataji, what are the instructions for those who want to take shelter of a spiritual master and consider bhakti yoga as their sole purpose of this life?
What are the instructions for such a person? That's the question.
Yes, what are the instructions for those who want to take shelter of a spiritual master?
One instruction is patience. Utsahan nishchaya daryat. Those are some little instructions. That is, I can send to you, Parma Karuna, links that have this question answered like 25 times, because I have a question answer little place that I've been doing for 20 something years, and it's a common question, so it's been answered in different ways. Some instructions are, besides patience, is let's say it on the negative, don't be impulsive. Impulsive is, I like the way he smiles, or he has charisma, or something like that. That's superficial. Rather, become very familiar with Prabhupada's teachings and try to understand, are the persons who I'm hearing from, are they transparently presenting the teachings of Prabhupada, of course, to their personality and given their nature and so forth. But is this a transparent person who is giving simply the teachings of disciplic succession? Very important, of course, that they are in disciplic succession, but in addition, that they're giving the message of disciplic succession transparently. Something that Prabhupada writes in his Nectar of Instruction is the disciple should examine the character, as the spiritual master should examine the character of the disciple to understand, is this a person who I feel their mood and their manner of presentation is something that I can literally accept and give dedication to? So those are preliminary considerations at the heart level. There is something at the head level, the teachings, and then something at the heart level. Is this a person who I feel, from looking at scripture and the other criterion that you have available to evaluate, this person is going to Krishna. And I want to go to Krishna, so by being with this person, will I go to Krishna? So it's a character evaluation, a commitment and character evaluation, on a personal level, on a heart level. And give it some time. When there's some idea that goes this way or goes that way, give it some time. Let some gestation period take place. And hear thoroughly and examine. And another is you judge a tree, Prabhupada's term, you judge a tree by its fruit. So are there persons who are closely connected to this individual who I feel I can resonate with, I can open my heart to, and they can guide me wisely, and so forth? Now, that's a short answer, and like I said, there's something like 25 additional answers, and Parma Karuna will remember to send me a little note, and I'll send him those links, and you can look at the answer, many answers to that question.
Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. And there you can see Priyam Mataji over there, smiling and joining her hands. That was her question.
Okay.
Okay. Next question is from Medha Mataji about Jai and Vijay. I would like to make it a little more interactive. Do you want to unmute Medha Mataji and ask the question? Or do you want me to ask on your behalf?
Yes, you please ask, Prabhuji.
All right. So actually, I'm not 100% clear about the question. So I'll try to phrase the question. And you can correct me if I got it right, Medha Mataji. So the question either is about this long, sort of a very frequently asked question about Jiva falling back into the material world.
Oh, okay.
And after going back to the spiritual world, the Jiva never falls back. But she has not specifically asked that how come then we fell. But there's this other aspect to the question that she has, and maybe that's the emphasis of the question, where she says, I am under the impression that once you reach Goloka Vaikuntha, you don't come back. But Jai and Vijay were cursed by the Kumaras, so they had to be sent back. But they were not sent back by the Lord himself. So please clarify, because as I understand, once you reach Vaikuntha, the cycle of birth and death is over. So Mataji, is your question specifically about Jai and Vijay's return? Or is it
about the
Jiva?
About the Jiva. Once, that's what I understood, that once you reach Vaikuntha, the Jiva reaches Vaikuntha, I mean, that's what we've been understanding, that you don't come back to the material world. So
Okay.
that's what I wanted to clarify. Then
The answer, just specifically to once attaining Vaikuntha, not coming back again, specifically that question, the answer is quite simple. This is absolutely an exception. And on what basis was it an exception? Answer. Jai and Vijay, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains. They intimately associated as doorkeepers of Lord Narayan. And they understood that Lord Narayan has a chivalry bhav. That's a secondary rasa, by the way, chivalry. And who in Vaikuntha is there to be a chivalrous combatant or opponent to Lord Narayan? Answer, nobody. So knowing that the Lord has this inclination, they in their heart, they offered a prayer. Our dear Lord Narayan, if you so desire, we can act in that capacity to be in opposition to you so you can fulfill your desire for chivalrous activity, combat. Fulfilling their desire was in combination with several other things, rather than several other things, that was the main thing. Lord Narayan was fulfilling that prayer of theirs. So it was an exception, and the rule is what you have understood. Once attaining Vaikuntha, one doesn't come back. It's in Bhakti Sandarbha, very explicitly, and that is our understanding, Gaudiya understanding and Bhagavatam understanding. The exception is the exception, not the rule. And that is saying even further, when the Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, etc., their actual demons is not Jai and Vijay each time. It's very rare and extremely exceptional. I hope that clarifies.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Yes.
Then we have a question of a slightly different nature. This is an anonymous one, that regarding chanting japa. So there are some who are making gradual progress, and then there are some who immediately go to chanting 16 rounds of japa. So by the way, in our Bhagavad Gita class, towards the end, we do 1 round of japa every time to give participants a flavor of what japa is and what we mean when we say 1 round, and and all that. So suddenly going to 16 rounds of japa may not stick for long, and one may fall back. So how to make sure that the chanting of japa remains consistent, whether we go through the gradual path or through a quantum leap?
Mm-hmm. How to be sure is 2 things: effort and mercy, or commitment and feeling yourself dependent upon the mercy of the Supreme Lord. One without the other is insufficient, whether it's gradual or quantum. And the commitment is between you and Krishna. And you can say your connection with Krishna is with those who are guiding you, or your spiritual master, or your Shiksha gurus, or those persons who are very close to you and you look up to. A commitment to them, which means a commitment to Krishna. That's the effort part. And then the mercy part. That's how to maintain consistency. You can go higher, and the higher is when the heart becomes cleansed, there's actually a taste. But with faith that the taste will come, although the taste may not be there for quite some time because of anarthas in the heart, I have faith in the process because I have faith in my teacher and teachings. Faith, that's the submission, but that's the effort part. It's fueled by or powered by faith. Sadhu Sangha. Stay in good association. And there'll be consistency.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. Another question is, so this has been asked by two devotees. I would request if, so this is a, Sushilpa Mataji, would you like to ask your question, unmuting, or would you like me to ask?
I mean, if you want, I can ask Prabhuji.
Yeah, please. That would be nice. And this was also a question that was asked, exact same question or a very similar question by Priyam Mataji as well. So since we already took a question from her, I'm requesting Sushilpa Mataji, but it's the same question.
Dandavat Pranam, Rumpad Swami Maharaj. It's really a big honor, to associate with you, like since you're a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada. When I read the Srila Prabhupada's books, I get so inspired and emotional. So I just wanted to know some of your experiences, since you're directly associated with Srila Prabhupada. I just wanted to know a few of your experiences with Srila Prabhupada, if you can share some.
Well, that could be 2 hours. Usually the question, what are your favorite, exchanges with Prabhupada or pastimes with Prabhupada? That's generally the way the question is worded. On the theme of how I summarized chapter 18, I would like to share one nice story. Two nice stories, Prabhupada stories. One was in relation to a morning walk. Maybe some of you online have been to Vrindavan. And way back when the temple was just completed, there was nothing. Now it's like noise and commotion and congestion and beeping horns and, shops and everything. At that time, it was nothing. It was agricultural fields, and except for behind us, in the other three directions, agricultural fields. It was off in the middle of the boonies. So Prabhupada went for morning walk very promptly at 6 a.m. and he walked from his quarters along the boundary wall, out the front gate, and turned right. And when he turned right, there was nothing but agricultural fields. And so we walked and walked and walked. And as we walked, there was some distance down the road, I don't know, a mile and a half, something like that. There was a grove of trees on the right-hand side. So he gestured at it one morning, said, "What is this?" Grove of trees, Prabhupada, so let's go. There was a little trail, he walked along the trail. And his mood at that time was instructing, of course, but his mood was instructing detachment. He was saying, Vrindavan is such a nice place. One can live one's life very simply, depending upon nature and giving one's full time and energy to Krishna's service. He walked over to a tree that had some pods, looked like string beans, growing from that tree. And he turned to someone, grabbing a hold of one of them and said, "Is this edible?" And, there's natural roots and so forth and so on. And he's saying the sadhu can live just from what nature supplies. We walked a little distance into that grove of trees, and at that particular location there was a bit of a cliff, kind of like a drop-off. And he pointed with his cane on the other side of the cliff, down in the agricultural field. There was a little cottage. He said, "See down there, there's a family and they have a cow. And the sadhu can go to the cow at milking time in the morning. He has his cup and requests some milk, and the little roots and vegetables and whatever is provided by nature and a cup of milk. And that's it. His economic requirements for the day are solved. The rest of the day dedicated Krishna's service. He looked at everybody like, you got the message, right? Live simply. And then walked a little bit further. And then I took it was purposeful. He turned to Brahmananda, who was taking care of different activities for Prabhupada, and said, right in the middle of this, renunciation, detachment mood, he said, did you get the $50,000? And Brahmananda said, yes. He said, did you give it to the printer? Yes. Did you check the galley sheets and the initial run of the printing to see if the quality is good? Yes. I mean, there was some details. And Prabhupada said, very good. And then it was a 180. And then 180, he went back the other way. Oh, life in Vrindavan is so simple, it's so wonderful. And I took it that he was instructing us that our aspiration should be simplicity, yet for Krishna's service we can accept complexity or involvement with the material energy because it's for Krishna's service. Chapter 18, right? What's the principle of sannyas, according to chapter 18, is renunciation or detachment from the fruits of your work. There was another very similar lesson. So the devotees, I wasn't there for this one, but what devotee that was there told me, they requested Prabhupada, we'd like some photographs that we can place on the altar. Would that be okay? Prabhupada agreed, and he was the choreographer. He planned two. One was he dressed in a very simple cotton dhoti with no kurta and holding his danda. And he was outside in the sunshine, standing at the edge of a large shade tree with a shade tree in the background. In other words, his dhoti was the light color. He's standing in the light, but it's a dark background, which makes a really good photograph. So he knew that much about photography. And he stood there looking very stern, very serious pose in his face. And then when those photographs were done, he went inside and he changed. And he changed into bright orange silk, shiny, polished silk, long sleeve kurta, bright colored orange dhoti and dhoti top. Then he came out, the devotee said, Prabhupada put his hand over his head like this and did a little pirouette. He just turned around slowly and smiled. Looked at them and said, for Krishna we can accept anything. He was teaching. For Krishna's service we can accept. For Krishna's service we can have next to nothing and be very contented. So if we do accept, it's not a fruitive acceptance. Now I'm a elevated sannyasi and guru, and so I get nice things. He was very happy with simplicity. And if something that was opulent came, he wasn't indulging himself. It was offering that to Krishna. My experience with Prabhupada was, without skipping a beat, he was always in the mood of giving. Giving instructions, giving lessons, giving himself, giving bhakti, very kindly, very expertly, very appropriately. And that givingness endeared those having anything to do with him, endeared them to him. Because the heart becomes filled with gratitude. Here's a person who doesn't need anything, doesn't want anything, and he's just giving. And he's always giving. And he's giving the best. Giving practical, but transcendental spiritual instructions. Always. Tirelessly. There's others. I think we should go on with our other questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Yeah, it's really nice to listen to all of them. I can hear to those experiences all day, but yeah, thank you.
There are many more.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Are there any live questions that devotees or participants have? Otherwise, I can keep going down the list, but it would be
We have
nice.
something live over here. If you have something live over there first, because it's free.
Yes, Som.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I do have a question, Prabhuji. Actually, two. I can share my first question. Swami
ahead.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna to you. Been waiting to see you. Actually, ever since we got to know you, you would be on this for this class. So this is my 2.5-year old. Her name is Siri, and she can chant the Maha Mantra also. Okay, Prabhuji, my question to you is, we do believe that Bhagavad Gita has solutions to all problems. I wanted to understand from you, how would you interpret what can we do for racism in the society from Bhagavad Gita? It's one of the practical problems that we are seeing, and it so happened just today. Actually, I happened to experience it for the first time, and I'm feeling little low. But I do wanted to ask you about if what I could do, or what strength you could provide me. And it was also the first day I actually went out with my japa bag. I'm proudly telling, I was so proud of to wear it today. And I went out with my japa bag. I did some chanting actually, like, just doing my routine work. Even that happened today. But it was one of the days where I actually felt some, some racism. I experienced racism as well. And I don't want to say what I did, Prabhuji, but I want to know how can the society change, or what can I do to make this place a better place for all of us.
Okay, your question is not how
Prabhuji, we are not able to hear you, Maharaj.
We can hear him.
I haven't been hear him. I've been listening.
Okay, Prabhuji, my husband.
I muted you. I think there is some echo at your end. So why don't
Yes,
you finish
Prabhuji.
the question and then you unmute yourself.
Prabhuji, I finished my questions. I finished my questions. My husband had muted us. I found out that. Thank you.
Did I respond now, Parma Karuna?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Well, the question is not how do you process when you're discriminated against. The question is how do you change the tendency out there for such dark things as discrimination, etc., etc. I will go to, if you don't mind, I'll go to the same concern that Srila Vyasadeva had. We'll give two answers, three answers. You can, any one or combination. Vyasadev's answer was Srimad Bhagavatam. And Shukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami's answer is Srimad Bhagavatam. That is to say, in this darkness of the age of Kali, that which gives light is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So propagate and exemplify the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. Live it and distribute it. That's something that you can do and each one of us can do. We're little people. What's any one of us going to be able to make a dent in what's going on? But that's the antidote. And collectively, the more the light of the Bhagavad is distributed and the qualities and character of a person who's living the life of the Bhagavad, that is a Vaishnav, then that is a very powerful deterrent for the degradation of the age of Kali. It's exactly what Vyasadeva saw. It's exactly the prescription given by Narada, and that's our faith. Second, listen carefully. Our founder Acharya saw the same thing, and he knew what to do. He had the one thing over and over. over and over. And again, Parma Karuna, you can remind me to send a little 3-minute, 4-minute audio clip, video clip of Prabhupada speaking the following message in New York. In the beginning, he had nothing. In the darkness of the age of Kali. And what did he take shelter of? The Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Propagating the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, kaboom, the Hare Krishna movement began. And many lives became transformed. Now, as many lives become transformed, that means those whose lives have become transformed become instruments for others' lives to become transformed. Like multi-level marketing, right? So as some become transformed, it's the same system that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used when he traveled in South India. You can read about it in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That is, he transformed the hearts of some. Those some wanted to stay with him. He said, no, you go back to your village and you share with them what you have received. And they did, and it was spread like, a good virus, a spiritual virus. The contagiousness of bhakti is very powerful because people don't like to be discriminated against. Some people who are bullies, they may be the discriminators or other wrongdoers or harsh doers or so forth and so on. So what to do? The antidote is the holy name. And the third is, already mentioned, but your good character. Your good character will be more compelling than all kinds of words spoken or rallies or assemblies or activists or this or that against wrongdoings. Your good character will speak more than that. And each one of us have that same opportunity, and collectively, that's a very powerful force in the world. Persons of good character will attract good character from others who have been in bad association. Because Kali Yuga is just a symptom of people who have bad association. They don't have good leaders or people that know where to take the society. So you become leaders by your own character and influence others by your character, by your teachings, and by the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Invite your own chanting and invite others to chant. It's very powerful panacea or cure for the disease of this age of Kali. That's where to take shelter. Take shelter of something else. Very shaky. Won't be a substantial result. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I don't know. So, have you ever seen Lord Krishna in real life? And can you tell us how Krishna looks like?
Prabhupada would answer that question this way. Do you have deities? Have you seen pictures of Krishna? Is that picture of Krishna not Krishna?
Yeah.
The deity not Krishna? And that's what he looks like. I'll tell you, here's another nice Prabhupada story. Ready? Here's a Prabhupada story. In Boston Temple, where I joined the Hare Krishna movement, the first ashram, at that time, this was 1970, a few years ago, the ISKCON Press, it wasn't BBT yet, it was ISKCON Press, lived in the same building. It was a wood frame, single family residence, and we were packed in this house. So the artists were part of ISKCON Press, and I was told the story by one of the artists, fantastic, superlative artist named Muralidhar. He asked Prabhupada the following question, similar to your question. He didn't say, Prabhupada, have you seen Krishna? He said, what does Krishna look like? Because we're supposed to paint paintings of Krishna. So what does he look like? And I have a whole lot of posters and other paintings, and he showed Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, yes, this is Krishna, yes. Then he showed him one where it was the face of Krishna in a cloud. And, beautiful artwork, but just a smiling face of baby Krishna in a cloud. He said, that's not Krishna, because Krishna is never alone. You won't find Krishna without his devotees. Mother Jasoda, or River Jamuna, or the cows, or the peacocks, or Radharani, or his cowherd boyfriends. You never find Krishna alone. So the word that was used at that time is, that's not bona fide. That's not what Krishna looks like. So then Muralidhar got really into it. He said, supposing a little child makes a little stick figure, and he shows Krishna holding a flute, he's got a peacock feather. Is that Krishna? And Prabhupada said, that's Krishna. Now, don't ask me to explain how that's Krishna, other than the characteristics from the eye of the little child that's Krishna. So, ask a child that's made a little drawing and say, oh, is that Jagannath? Because he's got the Jagannath smile and, et cetera, et cetera. And it's for the child, that's Jagannath. And the appearance of Krishna is as we find in the scriptures. His eyes, his hair, his smile, his teeth, his peacock feather, his flute, threefold bending form, Tribhanga Lalitam. That's Krishna. That's what he looks like. And different artists, let me put it this way. According to the love of Krishna's devotee, that's how Krishna appears. He's like a Vaidurya mani, a stone that shows the color that you have the inclination to see. It has multicolors. So Krishna's appearance is according to the love of his devotee. And there are certain characteristics, and those characteristics are part of Krishna's form. So it depends on your love for Krishna, which feature of Krishna you'll see. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for solving my question.
Thank you, Maharaj. Are there any other questions, live questions?
We have a live question over here.
Yes, Maharaj, please go ahead.
Okay, we're going ahead.
The question is, I want to completely surrender to Krishna, but sometimes material desires are strong. It keeps pulling you down and take your time away from Krishna. How to balance that?
Well, you don't balance it. You accept that that's what your position is, and you see where you want to go, and you take steps in the direction of where you want to go. And commonly, there's unsteadiness even in making the steps to go to where you want to go. But you continue because you have, this is like, how do you maintain 16 rounds over a long period of time? Because you have faith in the process. You stick to the process and become cleansed by the process that's cleansing and purifying and uplifting. And gradually, Chaita Darpana Marjanam, the heart becomes cleansed, and gradually that unsteadiness moves towards steadiness. One more online over here.
One more. If one practices devotional service, how will it save our ancestors who have never got an opportunity to practice devotional service when they were alive in this material world?
Nice question. Because of family connection, one can say karma is the determining factor for family connection. One takes birth in a particular family or has certain ancestors because of karmic connections. And if you become spiritually elevated, or to the degree that you become spiritually elevated, your ancestors receive benefit. I suggest the person asking this question, you'll look in Krishna book or Srimad Bhagavatam about the story of King Nriga. King Nriga made a mistake, and he was cursed by the sages to become a lizard. He became a lizard. Krishna rescued him because he wanted to see Krishna. He saw Krishna. And you'll find in that section the very graphic and detailed answer to your question. According to the level of bhakti that you achieve, you can benefit your predecessor, ancestors in differing degrees. You become a pure devotee, and the bell rings. So many generations before you and after you become liberated. So become a pure devotee. And those who you don't even know because they're your previous ancestors, they will become greatly spiritually benefited. It's just how the law of nature works, Krishna's arrangement. We have another question in the room. Is that okay?
Sure, Maharaj. There are a couple of devotees who have raised hands as well. So
okay. We'll hold off the one in the room. We'll go to the raised hands people, and then we'll come back to the room.
Sure. So Swanik, go ahead. And he has been very regularly attending the classes. I don't remember him missing a class or something. Very sincere student there.
This is the young man in the upper left corner nodding his head, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Go for it.
So my question is that how can we see Krishna in real life?
How do we do what?
How can we see Krishna in real life?
How can you see Krishna in real life? Well, you have to have the eyes to see Krishna in real life. And what does that mean, to have the eyes to see Krishna? The answer is given in Brahma Samhita, and that is when the eyes have a special ointment or salve that covers the eyes, and it's called the ointment of prema, prema anjana. It's right in Brahma Samhita. One who has prema anjana, and you smear your eyes with the ointment of love for Krishna, then you can see Krishna. Then you can see Krishna. But how are you going to get that ointment of prema? You can't find it at Kmart or Target, or it's not available in the grocery stores, supermarkets, or so. How do you get it? How do you get prema? You get prema by serving those who are devotees of Krishna, Vaishnav Seva, by chanting of the holy name, Nam Sankirtan, and you take some prasadam every now and then. You try to dedicate just like this Bhagavad Gita discussion, you try to dedicate your activities, I guess you're school age, so you dedicate your attending school as part of your service to Krishna at this stage of your life. You try to do like that. You dedicate your activities to Krishna's service, chant the holy name, and serve the devotees. And gradually prema, that's natural within the heart, it awakens and becomes prominent, and then you can see Krishna in real life. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we take another one from the... So next is Sapan Prabhu. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask? And
Hare
another
Krishna.
one who has been very sincerely attending all the classes. Thank you, Sapan Prabhu.
Thank you for this opportunity, Maharaj. Something that as I'm going through this process through the class and along with Parana Karna ji, that I've been struggling with is human psychology when it comes to material things is it's when you try to engage very heavily in something, there's always the risk of burnout, or that you just get fatigue. And I realize this is a spiritual endeavor, and so perhaps that same concept may not apply in this context, but it's something that is in the back of my mind. And I realize, as we talked about before, the goal is not to do 16 rounds of japa, but that's only one part of it. I mean, I'm just keeping the Krishna conscious in the mind at all times. How do you balance that, and what do you tell devotees who are on this path or journey?
Well, specifically, you're asking the question, avoid burnout or excessive endeavor. So let me respond specifically to the excessive endeavor component of your question. How's that?
Okay.
I like Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teaching in this regard. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teaching, I call it incrementalism. It goes like this. Progress is a series of small steps in the right direction. I'll say it again. It's really nice. So short and simple. Progress is a series of small steps in the right direction. So my advice to you to avoid burnout is be clear what the goal is. You're not there, but as it says, every journey begins with the first step. So take small steps and make sure you're headed in the right direction. And you may need to get your compass out from time to time to make sure you're headed in the right direction, because you may think you're headed in the right direction and check your compass, you're not necessarily still heading in the right direction after some time. So recalibrate your direction and continue making small steps in the right direction. That's a very reasonable way to avoid burnout. You decide, here's the goal. We'll go like this. Here's the goal, and I'm down here. I want to get up here where the goal is. So let me take a doable step in the direction of the goal and maintain it. And maintain it, and maintain it, and maintain it until it's just part of my life. And then you have a celebration. And then you consider what's the next step. And then you take the next step. Small steps in the right direction will avoid burnout. What part of the stage of unsteady bhakti, it's got a nice Sanskrit name, anishtita bhakti. So don't feel bad if you find yourself in unsteady bhakti, because it's the whole category of bhakti. Standard. Unsteady bhakti is a standard. So there's going to be a sine curve. It goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down. So there'll be unsteadiness to some degree. That's just standard. But you try to maintain steadiness. And not too high, not too low. Try to maintain steadiness. So take a standard that you can maintain, and you do that. Whatever it's, the things to do or the things to not do, austerities. Whatever austerities you perform, let them be something that's sustainable. It can be in the workplace, it can be in the spiritual endeavors, it can be in your relationships, it can be in, your life. Moderation is the language used in Bhagavad Gita. So take that incremental step approach towards the goal, and you'll be in good shape. And keep good association, the same as this earlier question. Stay always in good association. Sadhu Sangha will be the ballast that will help you. Even if some burnout sensation starts to come, you take shelter of sadhus and you'll be in good shape quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Can we take more here?
Yeah,
Or?
this is your show. We're
Maharaj,
your show.
Krishna's show.
Krishna show. I mean, the Portland Sangha show.
Gopal, you were next in the raising your hand, so you can go ahead and unmute. And
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for coming here and answering these questions. I just had maybe it's a little bit open-ended question, but just like for me, myself, like I'm going to probably be going to college pretty soon. And then just the question there is, it'll be an environment where everybody surrounding me is probably not having a good consciousness, and not even from like a mode of goodness standpoint, might not be even having a good consciousness in that sense, let alone a Krishna conscious mindset. So how do I, what are just some, can you just elaborate maybe on how I can try to stay steady in Krishna consciousness and even just like mode of goodness, even at that level? And
Welcome to life.
yeah.
Because it's in school. I mean, you're a student, so college will be less association and more of everything else. But the same things that you've been doing to maintain while in high school, you continue to do them.
he was homeschooled, Maharaj, so that's a little.
Oh.
And also like here, you also have the constant association of the parents who are doing a lot of devotional service. And that, I think just that one itself is, that factor itself is super big in maintaining.
Yeah. Well, now you're a young adult, and so welcome to life again. So homeschooled has its, I also, then the homeschooling Shakti says, this is what I understand happens where there's homeschooling. You have a self-starting mechanism inside that's not what others have. Others have, the perks of competition and all of those things. Now, you have as a self-starting mechanism. So you have a sense of what's important to you and why you want to learn and why you want to grow and why you want to be who you are. So that is now going to get tested a bit, maybe stretched a bit, but you just hold on to that place of shelter that you have that's within you, that's been your good fortune to have developed within you for up to this stage of your life. That's your shelter. And of course you have your parents, and you have the other Vaishnavas, you have teachings. I would say this, in principle, your morning sadhana is sacred, and make sure that you don't do the burnout program with your studies because the pressure is, whatever it is. You have a cutoff time for your studies in the evening. Very, very simple. Very simple. If you set the standard, it will protect you. Cutoff time in the evening. Take rest. Get up at a fixed time in the morning, and you put your sadhana there the first part of the day, and that will be an amazing source of protection and spiritual strength. And then you stay in the course of the day. You stay within the boundaries of the values of learning and the values of character that you're carrying. And, like this Bhagavad Gita study, you'll get a good picture of the modes of nature out there. Oh, there's this mode. Oh, there's that mode. It's a little bit like Prahlad when he heard his teachers saying, friend and enemy, he said, oh, I heard about this, now I'm seeing it. Friend and enemy, I know what that one is. I heard it from Narada. So you'll see in real life the modes of nature on full display. And you don't have to buy into it or feel, ganged up by the modes of nature. You have your place of shelter and you have transcendental knowledge. You'll be protected. I'm sure you'll be protected. Being cautious, that's good, but you'll be protected. I'm sure of it.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Yeah.
I have trust and confidence in you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Call your brother when you get whacked in the side of the head. Say, whoa, what happened?
Yeah, I'll definitely be calling him a lot.
Okay, we're going to do one question in the room here.
Sure, Maharaj.
Our hostess.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the Q&A session. My question is about chanting. How do we increase the attentiveness and in chanting?
That's a classic question. And it's one that doesn't get resolved lickety-split. It's an ongoing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives an answer I like, and that is the success in achieving what you just said is the commitment to do so. That is to say, there are different tools or strategies or principles that one can apply, but it comes from the effort to do so. That those tools are effective according to the effort that we exert. So now, how do you maintain that effort to do so? Accepting that there's this. Twice we had retreats in Gitanagari on the theme of Gitanagari is a farm in Pennsylvania, on the theme of acceptance and progress. No, excuse me, it was one time, acceptance and progress. And twice we had one, say yes to Krishna. So the say yes to Krishna, that's the commitment. You practice saying yes to Krishna, and that's a commitment. Because you're not going to go away from saying yes to Krishna. Now, the unsteadiness, the mind goes, and then you bring the mind back, and then bring the mind. So I can share with you some things that I've been doing of late that I find very helpful, but the principle behind it is the commitment. And one of those principles, one of the practices, is from Bhaktisiddhanta. I like this one very much. I found it very effective. He says, distraction has to do with having other shelters, the mind being accustomed to having other shelters. So when you take up chanting, the mind has other shelters. So while the mouth is making a sound, that's not real chanting. He wrote, you can train a bird to make that sound. You can make a machine that makes that sound. It's not really chanting that you make that sound. What's that sound? Is when from the heart, you call out, oh, Lord Nityananda, please bestow upon me the pure holy name. And when you call out from your heart, the pure holy name, that's chanting. And when that chanting is very similar to Rupa Goswami's prayer to the holy name. When that sound enters the courtyard of the heart, the mind becomes stunned. And the senses become inert. Or another thing that Bhaktisiddhanta says that I find is very effective and powerful, and I stay with it. The distracted mind can be controlled by the ear. There's 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, and they're centered about the mind. And they're competing for supremacy all the time. But if the ear is actually more powerful than the others, including the mind, because you can capture the mind by hearing the sound. If you don't say negatively, if you don't hear the sound, the mind is distracted, it's all over. But if you hear The ear can conquer the mind. That's the distracted entity. So the control valve is the ear. You have to hear. So give attention to hearing. To give attention to hearing, you have to articulate clearly, then hear very clearly, and the sound will go to the courtyard of the heart, and the mind becomes stunned. You can capture the mind through the ear. So the main activity or attention and focus when chanting is hearing. And the mind becomes captured. And when you find the mind has wandered again, go back to hearing. You bring the mind back, but how you bring the mind back is by hearing.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. So enlightening.
Continued effort, tireless effort. So that was your question, to sustain attentiveness or minus distractedness. It's the effort to hear the sound. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Let's go back to Portland. How are we doing?
Thank you, Maharaj. Yes, there are more questions. I have at least 3 more questions, 4 actually. So we'll go to Aarti Mataji and Sarita Mataji over there next. They are, looks like, together in the same location.
Yes, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Guruji.
Krishna. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I read the document which Prabhuji had sent across to us. So how do we know the directions of the super soul as Paramatma, Maharaj?
Well, you read the section that is summarized by those phrases, and you'll get detail, but the principle is, I was thinking to discuss this. Bodhi Yoga is sometimes used interchangeably with Bhakti Yoga, correct? You go back to chapter 2, Bodhi Yoga, or chapter 10, Tadami Bodhi Yogam Tam, Bodhi Yoga. Bodhi means spiritual intelligence in this case, and spiritual intelligence guides bhakti. What's bhakti? Bhakti is the senses engaged in practical activity for the pleasure of Krishna. That's bhakti. Intelligence guides that. Intelligence guides bhakti. And speak your question one more time because I want to make sure I'm hitting the target. Say your question one more time.
How do we know the directions of the super soul as Paramatma within us to follow the instructions in the right direction, to go in the right direction, Maharaj?
We have the guidance of Scripture, and we know that that the intelligence that we're being inspired by is actually super soul and not Maya or the mind or something else. If it's consistent with Scripture, that's the guideline. But super soul gives intelligence. Super soul gives intelligence in all kinds of things. I mean, all kinds of things. Like we were having some technology issues over here in the midday discussion. So, that takes intelligence to sort out those technology issues or to do any practical activity in service to Krishna. But super soul gives intelligence that's for Krishna's pleasure. And if you're in this mood of humility, eager to understand what is going to be pleasing to Krishna in different ways to please Krishna, you're guided by Guru Sadhu Shastra, and the alignment of super soul's instruction is according to Guru Sadhu Shastra. In principle, you're not violating principles. And then, the intelligence that guides you may be different that guides the intelligence of the person next to you, and that's just fine, provided it's in alignment with Guru Sadhu Shastra. That's the standard that you go by. That intelligence, how to reach Krishna, how to please Krishna, how to move from where you are to the goal. Like this other question about not burning out when doing devotional service. It takes intelligence in alignment with Guru Sadhu Shastra. That's Super Soul.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Maharaj.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prabhuji and Mataji.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take one question that had come in earlier through the offline mechanism. And this is from Medha Mataji as well. Do you want to unmute and ask? This is about the demoniac nature, or do you want me to ask, Mataji?
I will ask. I will ask.
Yeah, please.
Yes. Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, Maharaj. This is, I was just wondering, my second question was that the Lord is the source of each and everything. So one accepts that the Lord is the source of demons too. But it is clear that Lord is Sat Chitananda. Please, can you elucidate on the demonic nature? Is it the modes of at work? Or Lord, I was just wondering whether Lord Brahma's creation or what. That's what I wanted you to elucidate.
Well, Krishna is the source of everything, and everything includes everything, including divine and demoniac nature. He's the source of everything. And it's both guna and karma at work. Now, he's not directly hands-on with karma. He's not directly hands-on with guna. He's Satchitananda. But within that Satchitananda form of the Lord is everything, including, the modes of nature and karma, the laws of karma. And the overseeing of the laws of karma is done through other agents. So, within this world, just as Krishna is describing in Bhagavad Gita, divine and demoniac nature, he's the source of both. He's the source of both. And he's permitting those who do demoniac things to do demoniac things. And there's karma for those demoniac things, and there's further and further darkness for those who do the demoniac things, and that's under the permission or sanction of Super Soul. When they do those demoniac things, the good news is, periodically the Lord will come and liberate them from that material contamination, at least at the end of the age of Kali. Kalki personified comes and frees everybody from that bondage of all their sinful activities they've been doing. And such yoga goes way back up to the top again. Mm-hmm. He uplifts, but he also sanctions and gives reward and punishment accordingly.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Next, we will go to Anita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for all the wonderful answers you've been giving us. I have a question, like being a neophyte devotee, I'm making slow progress in my spiritual advancement. So is it okay to still ask Krishna for some material desires? Like sometimes when I go through tough times in this material life, is it okay to think that, okay, Krishna is, even though it's a materialistic desire, Krishna will show us, he'll take care of us, he'll guide us. It's all his plan, and he'll definitely shower mercy on us. Is that even okay to?
Yes.
Is it okay to have that line of thought?
5-6 times. The answer is it's okay. Now, is there a higher position? Yes. But is it okay? Yes. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, 4 types of pious people, like you, may surrender unto me, and one of them is those who want something material. Let's take a look at Prahlad Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj. You know the story of Dhruva, right?
Yes, yes, Maharaj.
He wants something material. Boy, did he want something material. Big time he wanted something material. And he went for it, for his something material from Lord Vishnu. And the good news is he became free as he approached Lord Vishnu, and same will happen to you. As you approach Lord Vishnu for something material, you'll get spiritualized. That's the good news.
Yes, yes, Maharaj. I remember reading like Lord Krishna purifies the intention with which you're coming to him.
You got it, exactly.
Yeah. Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Ram, you have a question?
Yeah, so Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for coming here and answering so many questions. What I wanted to ask is pretty similar to what Gopal was asking. But so far, the sort of things I've been doing in my practice of bhakti are like, they've been pretty much constant for a long time. And it sort of just becomes like stagnant or like routine, especially since we haven't been going to the temple as much because of like the pandemic and everything. There isn't that sort of like association that you will get every week, and sort of it sort of like boosts every week, and like sort of you remember every day that okay, that this is something I do, but it's sort of becoming a little stagnant, and then eventually like a little like less quality as well. So would there be any like ways to sort of keep like being very motivated and interested without getting that kind of association?
Well, count your blessings, because when it's not pandemic, you've received abundant association in so many ways, and you're miles and miles and miles ahead of those that haven't had that association. So look inside and feel the gratitude for what you have received, and you'll feel more full than, I'm less than full. And second is, pandemic-wise, there's opportunities for association that devotees have learned just by the circumstance to seek that association in these alternative ways, just like we're doing right now. Because of pandemic, I'm not with you in Portland, but we're together in this way. So similarly, seek association in that manner. I mean, I'll give a little example. I know you love kirtan. Like you're kirtan madman. You love kirtan. So just today, I shared with Mukunda a recording that somebody from some other country sent me of Janavi Jivana, a kirtan from 3 years ago. I really liked the kirtan. So I sent it to Mukunda. You know Mukunda, right?
Yes.
I sent to Mukunda and said, listening to this, I thought of you, and this is your style, it's your personality. And he wrote back saying, wow, I really like the melody, and yeah, it fits me really well, and thanks for thinking me in that way. So then I wrote back saying, Festival of the Holy Name is coming up. I don't know if you're going to be around when that's happening. It's 4th of July weekend. So could you, along with your team, plan to sing that melody and have some nice instruments? So although we're virtually separate, I reached out to this one, that one, and we'll have some nice instrumentation. And how long would you like it? So it's absorption in kirtan, even we're physically separate. So you know how to do that. You're a creative person. You given the circumstance, you have your kirtan association and planning and so forth and so on in the ways that you can do it.
Right.
And it's getting a little bit lighter with the panic that people have been in with COVID. So maybe you can sit together on some occasion, socially distanced, so you're not infecting each other potentially, and have a little kirtan every now and then. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, that gives me some idea.
Thank you, Maharaj. There's one more question that had come in offline. And this question is, there were a couple of questions, so I'll kind of, which were very similar, so I'll paraphrase and combine them. This is about the significance of formal initiation. And is it possible, or rather I would say it the other way around, is it not possible to make spiritual progress simply by chanting and hearing? And what is the significance and the meaning of initiation in that regard?
Certainly one can make advancement without initiation. And what's the significance? The formal connection makes the fullness of the chanting of the holy name richer. I mean, paraphrasing, there's a very nice section in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya speaks on this point, that the holy name, just as Krishna is fully independent, the holy name is fully independent. It's not dependent on anything. And then there's really one of the longest purports in the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita where Prabhupada quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur explaining why it's, while not necessary, it's necessary. Or say it this way, if you're Shukadeva Goswami, he never received Diksha, and he was a perfected soul, so you don't need it. But if you're not on the level of Shukadeva Goswami, you need it. That's not exactly how he writes, but it has an impact. It creates an impression on the soul that makes the formal connection with the disciplic succession firm, and the mercy through disciplic succession come into your life and makes your devotional practices enriched and strengthened. And we all need that. We need all the help we can get. And that's a very essential principle of formal connection with disciplic succession. And it's not just our sampradaya, it's other sampradayas as well. It's a principle. So yes, you can make progress. You can make abundant progress. For years and years and years and years, you can go on practicing sadhana bhakti without having formal initiation and making substantial progress. And the time will come when that step will be taken. It can happen sooner or later. But that's what our acharyas and that's what our scriptures, Guru Sadhu Shastra tells us. So that's we accept on that basis.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for that wonderful answer. Maharaj, this is a follow-up to a previous question, and I got this on the WhatsApp. When you were mentioning about steadiness or how to maintain a consistency in japa over a long period of time, and you mentioned that the taste may not come and may not, I think you specifically used the words, and it may not come for a long time. So the question I got was, how long is it okay for taste to not come in japa? And in fact, even I would have that question myself.
Well, taste is very high. That's called ruchi. Ruchi means taste. And ruchi comes after eradication of unwanted things in the heart. And there's a step in between, nishtha or steady. So anartha nivritti, nishtha, ruchi. So how long? A lot depends on the effort that you make. Back to the earlier question. Everything depends upon your effort. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And what's the fuel or the propellant? What propels effort? It's from the heart level, wanting to connect with Krishna. And the initial stages, according to Bhagavad Gita and practical experience, like Anita's question, the initial stage may be, I want relief from distress, or I want something. It's me-centered. And the taste is when it's no longer me-centered. It's Krishna-centered. Because that's real taste. My desires is not very satisfying. And having them fulfilled, it's all superficial. My desires are superficial. The deeper desires is is love. It's Krishna's happiness. So how long will it take? It depends on our effort. And what's that effort? The effort is being connected. Like this question in the room here about sustained attentiveness. That's connection. When you want to be connected, there's sustained attentiveness. Isn't it?
Yes, Maharaj.
Be very patient. Say there's somebody that you're very close to, and there's whatever it is, some hardship in the relationship comes, but you're very dedicated to the person. You stay dedicated to the person. You stay dedicated to the person, you stay dedicated, because the person is very important to you. And the obstacle in that relationship may, in course of time, at least in terms of Krishna will, be cleared. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur discusses this very beautifully in Madhurya Kandambini, chapter 3. Okay, we have something online over here. Let me go to the online over here question.
Sure, Maharaj.
Maharaj, the question is, I know as a Vaishnava, I should forgive and forget others' mistake. Also, we all have to suffer due to past karma. But how to forgive a person who has done a very abominable acts which create a deep impact in one's life, in fact, which lead to destruction of others' life? When we meet the same person again and again in our life, the first thing we are reminded is about the mistake they have done and how it affected us. Then forgiveness becomes secondary, making our mind pollute. How to deal with that?
This is the overcoming negative emotions topic. When a negative emotion comes and it's really powerful, how do you deal with it? This is one particular kind, and there's others, and there's others, and there's others. One of the questions that came earlier was, could you explain more about the connection with Paramatma? So it requires spiritual intelligence to get Paramatma's signal. When your receiver is on, you'll get Paramatma's signal. And to get your receiver on, to get Paramatma's signal, you need to be, you need to follow Bhagavad Gita. You need to follow the stage of Nishkam Karma Yoga, and you continue with your service. What your shelter is, your service to Krishna. That's who you are. You're Krishna's servant, and you take shelter with who you are, and the object of your service, Krishna. When you don't have that connection, you're going to be tossed around by the waves of whatever, whether someone was hurtful or not hurtful. The nature of the material world is filled with waves of unpleasantries. So what to do when that comes? You learn the art of taking shelter of Krishna, and it starts with you tolerate, and then you minimize that emotion becomes dwarfed because you're in a higher consciousness place. You can then be forgiving, and otherwise you're just in this rubber band ping pong bounce back and forth position. Waves of the material energy are moving you this way, that way. It's not a very pleasant ride. Take shelter. You can say, yeah, but when that emotion comes, it comes on real strong. Okay. not denying the wrong that someone did or the emotion that comes with the wrong that someone did. But where's your shelter? You may have to distance yourself from that person's association for some time because the emotion is too much for you. And then your mind's going to linger on, the hurt anyways, even they're remote. And it's just managing your negative emotions to the point where you can take shelter of Krishna more effectively. And then those negative emotions subside and you can manage them better. And make intelligent decisions how to be in the mood of serving that person in higher consciousness. I think we should end. How about you, Parmakuru? Do you think we should end?
Sure, Maharaj. Yes, we are coming close to the 2-hour mark.
I'm winding down. My energy level is like getting fast.
Sure, Maharaj. Sure, absolutely.
We have one in-room question, and she's been very patiently with her 3 kids, keeping everyone entertained. And
sure, Maharaj. And I would just like to say one thing while that other question is being asked. If 1 or 2 devotees from our Bhagavad Gita group would like to express some appreciation for Srila Prabhupada and their gratitude towards Lord Krishna for bringing Bhagavad Gita in their lives on behalf of the group, please feel free to do so. Raise your hand or...
I'm going to ask permission to excuse myself because it's 8 o'clock over here, and I have a class tomorrow morning at 6:30 for the China devotees. And I have a 45-minute drive to get back, and I want to take this one question and fold my palms and leave the program here.
Sure, Maharaj. That sounds great.
Okay, thanks. Move your mask so we can hear you better. Thanks. In fact, compliments while we're waiting. You manage your children really expertly.
Thank you. So my question is like when as a grahastha, sometimes we make some direction to make some material advancement in certain way.
Sure.
And when we go in that path and we see a lot of obstacles, the mind is questioning, oh, is it Krishna creating these hurdles to direct me in a different direction than this path? So that question often comes to us, and I don't know if Krishna really does those things. I just want to ask if it is my karma that's creating those hurdles, or if it's super soul or higher nature is asking us to take a different path.
Well, there's other options besides those 2. You gave 2 options. There may be additional options. The menu may be longer than those 2. It's not, Krishna doesn't want it, or it's my karma that's creating it. When you engage in principle, when you engage, you are engaged in devotional service to Krishna under the guidance of our founder Acharya and his teachings and everything. So you're Krishna's devotee. And by being Krishna's devotee, the good news is your karma is in the background. You know that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam where Vyasadeva sits down in the trance of meditation and he sees Sakshat Purnam, he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead in fullness, and Mayam Cha Tad Apashrayam, the Maya is behind him. But that's your situation. You're being protected from Maya by Krishna. It's not, Maya is the instrument of karma. It's not karma. provided you stay focused on your attention to Krishna. From your question, you're staying attentive to Krishna. So now, here's some other options besides Krishna doesn't want you to do this. Here's some other options, a bunch of other options. Krishna wants to test your determination. That's one option, not necessarily that one. Krishna wants you to depend more on him and less on your own abilities.
For material advancement, we don't want to ask Krishna for.
We don't ask, like Anita's question was, is it okay? It's okay. Prabhupada writes, sometimes grahastas have to, because of their situation. Now, then comes another, you need to look at your purposes. Are my purposes a Krishna conscious purpose? Or another way to ask the same question is the level of comfort or affluence or stuff sufficient? And am I being greedy? It's not karma. It's, is it more than really what's required? Or is it just a natural, because I'm a grahasta, there's this thing that says, he asked this question the other day in a morning class, a different way of asking it. But, wanting to expand the field of material activity is part of grahasta life. And, where is the boundary for that? Is if that came into place, is that going to be enough? And you need 2 of that, and you need 5 of that, and what's enough? That's an important question that you should be asking yourself. Is it really, for Krishna that this is being done, or is it the mode of passion, and Krishna wants me to wind down the mode of passion and be more peaceful with what has come by its own accord? So come by its own accord doesn't mean you sit in a hammock and sip lemonade. It means you make a reasonable effort according to your nature, and you conduct your life in a responsible way according to your nature, and be peaceful with whatever the outcome is. Or it's a very simple way of saying all of that is, yours is the service department and results is Krishna's department. You do your service. And is this the service? Or is it something other than service? Your focus is going to the obstacle rather than the mood of service. Readjust what you're looking at. And is this in the mood of service? And is it what's required for my personal psychophysical nature and the needs of my family? Or is it just like I'm being pushed by the mode of passion unnecessarily? Anyway, so you look at those parameters in addition to the 2 that you mentioned. And then you turn your attention to scripture and your chanting, and you continue to be patient and look for the answer out of those different options. And you move. This is where the super soul question comes. Is it the direction of super soul, Krishna, to me, to moderate my efforts or my plan or my expectations or whatever, according to Krishna's plan? I mean, what you're saying applies to practically everybody. So I'm going to excuse myself, looking at my watch. I'm going to have to depart. So I'm going to hit the leave button, and Karma Kruna, you can take over, okay?
Just 1 second, Maharaj. I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking this time out And before Maharaj leaves, I would like to just show our sincere appreciation to Maharaj by chanting the Maha Mantra once. So everybody, if you can please unmute, as many of you as possible. Appreciate Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Dandavat.
Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this session then. And I think Maharaj has left.
Left, yes.
So thank you so much for joining, and wonderful session and thank you for all your enthusiastic questions. So we will resume next week with our study of Bhagavad Gita. We will continue towards almost the last portions of chapter 18. So we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for your enthusiastic participation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Loudly. Loudly, Siri. Okay, that's all? Okay, okay. Siri is done.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
We don't have a chanting session, Prabhuji, today?
Yeah, so I think, we didn't have the chanting session. I kind of, the session went on and then Maharaj left and then we all started leaving. I kind of forgot about that.
Oh, okay.
So sorry, we'll
That's
definitely
okay.
do it next time.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.